the other thing that I want to bring in here, and that has been kind of my experience, and like particularly I've used a lot of psychedelics. I don't know about a lot, but like I've had a lot of I've had psychedelic experiences that have really impacted my life, and kind of the central insight that, like, if I was to really just say the central insight that I got from psychedelics was kind of reality is not what it seems, or it's not just what it seems. And it's interesting because in Buddhist practices, that's really the insight you're trying to get, and you're trying to deepen into that insight, that there's appearances. Things appear a certain way, and it's not that those appearances don't exist, but they don't exist in an ultimate sense. Like when you reify them and you make those appearances solid, that's when you run into problems, because that's not how reality actually is. And to me, a lot of what you're speaking about in Imaginal Love, and this kind of in between space, right? This in between, like where the meaning's in between, that's all pointing to it. So it's like these kind of insights coincide. To me, they seem like they're pointing to the same thing. It's like, how do we stay in this in between space, which imagination is like this in between space. Like that's the feel that I get of it. And then when I start thinking, like, how do we really defy imagination, or how what is the word for imagination, or what is the word, like, what does imagination mean, or what does soul mean, or what does God mean, like, or what does creativity mean? Like we try to like, what does meaning mean? We try to like define these things, and it's almost like we can't, because it's like in this in between space. And I guess that's like what reality is. It's like you can't grasp it.
I would second everything you said there. But more than that, I'm delighted to hear you say that, because I know less about Buddhism than I would like to, because life is short. Though I've dabbled and I've read, but and that's been my intuition, is that the Buddhist idea of illusion or temporary, or what is it, codependent arising. I said, oh, codependent arising, that's hermeneutics, and that's that these things are, if I mean, sure, they're not identical, but they're very close to being in the same places. And so I often use little quotes from Buddhists to sort of bring people, because some people that listen to me, they know more about the Buddhist tradition than they do about Korban or Hillman or certainly Islam. And I say, well, this is like that, and I've always hoped that I have been right, and that makes sense. In fact, let's see, boy, Ibn Arabi. Yeah, in some future life, I would have to devote it to studying Ibn Arabi, because he was arguably one of the, if not the, he was certainly one of the most prolific mystics in the history. Draws from Ibn Arabi. So I know Korban, I don't know Ibn Arabi, but according to Korban and William Chittick at Stony Brook, who does know Ibn Arabi, the imagination is the interspace. It's like the Barzakh or the Bardo. It's an in between space, and between, in one telling, between the abstract intellect, Korban would say, the pure cherubic intelligences, and the material world. But I want to get rid of I'll keep the pure cherubic intelligences, but I'm not interested in keeping you just don't have to know very much contemporary physics to realize that matter is just energy, in a sort of stable form. So I don't really want to literalize even that. But for Ibn Arabi, he says, well, from one point of view, imagination is the medium between the intellect and matter. But he says, from another point of view, everything is imagination, because everything is between something and something else. That's the version of Ibn Arabi's story that I like. Everything is, of course, from that point of view, imagination, because everything is between something and something else. And if you and that sounds really Buddhist, with air quotes. It's like, and then of course, then the trick is, how do you stay there? And You don't want to be there when you're picking your kid up from school because you'll get hit by a car. you know, and you don't, poets make bad, administrators because they're always between one thing and another. And if you those and making a cup of coffee when you're when you're questioning the basis of reality often goes awry. So Hillman would say, oh, of course we have to literalize, but do recognize that we do literalize different things at different times, and that different people literalize different things, and certainly different cultures literalize different things. And so within some sort of constraints, there's some variability in which things get literalized and when. Oh gosh. So I'm weighing whether to. So there's this whole discussion. Yeah. So first of all, be comfortable with your literalizations. Just learn to feel when they are not being useful. That's a pragmatic thing.
This is so like this is so parallel to what I'm learning through my meditation practice. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, and everything is really empty. And one way of understanding emptiness is everything's a mental construction, which another way you could say everything is kind of imagination. And things appear a certain way, and it's okay for that appearance to be there, and it's okay to play like this is real given in the certain context. It's okay to play a certain character, right? We're all playing
Yeah.
characters,
Yeah.
but don't take it seriously, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally right. At least look, at least it seems to me to be a good thing to aim for. I mean, that's what's been going on. I mean, as I said, my current interpretation of everything I've written has been hermeneutics, and I think you can easily get way out ahead of yourself. Otherwise, it's just description. Here is my life, and you won't go anywhere. But if you're interpreting meanings, that always leads you to something new, unless you're looking up your dream symbols in a book. That's not what we're talking about, right? Not that kind of interpretation. It's utterly central to Corbin's idea of what hermeneutics is. This is the soul revealing itself. That's what hermeneutics is. Okay. So we can take a few minutes. I'm going to blow everybody's heads unless they already know about this. So where we are right now, this is where I've been with poets who seem to me to instantiate this, and artists. But I didn't start that way. I started as a really somebody stuck in my head, and it took me 30 years to try to activate this stuff. Now I begin to realize, there are people who don't need any of this because they're born with it, and they are lucky enough to get to kind of stay with it. Although I've had artists take some of my courses who have said, no, I know what you're saying, but you are giving me words for my experiences. And so that seems to be a useful function, which I have also performed. But I've known for a long time that I'm way out ahead of myself. And now I seem to be catching up to myself. I actually have the rudiments of maybe something a little bit like the thought of the heart.